Thanks, Adam, and I also want to start by acknowledging that we're meeting on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and pay my respects to their elders. I want to thank Greg for not just what was a phenomenally comprehensive outline of what carbon pricing is, what it does, what it means for you, but also for steering this legislation through the Parliament, for negotiating it. It has been a tough job, and I'm so proud and pleased that he's been able to do it. I also want to offer my congratulations to the City of Sydney for being acknowledged as a carbon neutral council. It's a terrific achievement and shows the importance of local action and what can be achieved. Congratulations. Professor Andy Pittman from the University of New South Wales was reflecting on the difficulty of communicating about carbon pricing earlier this year, and he was talking about his frustration about being invited to go on the radio all the time to explain climate change and then being told it wasn't real. And he said, "It would be like asking a cardiologist to respond to the well-known theory that humans do not have a heart, and cardiologists only claim we have a heart so they can make lots of money claiming to operate on them." I thought that was a lovely explanation of where we've been in this debate in Australia, that we are constantly re-prosecuting the case, and the fact that we've got the CSIRO, the Bureau of Meteorology, the Australian Academy of Sciences, and the vast majority of academic thought around the globe that says we have settled science on this, and yet we are still prosecuting and re-prosecuting this case in Australia. The frustration that Andy was expressing, I think, is a frustration that's shared by many Australians. So I'm not going to go over the science again tonight. What I'm going to say is that any responsible government, given the evidence that the Australian government has been given, would have acted as we have acted. And I'll say this as well, any responsible government, given the advice of economists like Professor Ross Garnaut and many, many others, that the most effective way of reducing our carbon pollution and reducing our impact on the environment, any responsible government would have priced carbon pollution in this way. It's important to realise that Professor Garnaut quantifies the costs of not acting. We've been talking a lot about the cost of acting, but the cost of not acting, he says, is a hit on Australia's gross national product of 2% by 2050 and 7% by 2100. That's the bill that we're leaving to our children and our grandchildren if we don't act. It's not just the economic consequences of not acting, obviously, it's the environmental consequences that affect our beautiful natural icons like the Great Barrier Reef, Kakadu National Park and others. It's the effect on our agricultural industries and the tourism industries that benefit from those beautiful natural icons. When I said any government would act, it's important for people to remember that both the government and the opposition have set the same target for carbon pollution reduction. The opposition also has a 5% reduction target. What is different is the mechanisms proposed to get there. The mechanisms that the government is proposing is that we tax, as you heard from Greg Combet, the 500 biggest polluters, and that we help families and businesses cope with those changes. The mechanism that the opposition is proposing is that households would subsidise the big polluters to reduce their carbon pollution emissions. And that's a cost we've calculated of around $1,300 per household around Australia to reach that same 5% reduction target. I'm very pleased and proud to be part of the government that's delivered this historic change, and I'll be very happy to answer more specific questions about how this impacts household finances later in our panel discussion. Thanks, Adam.